Welcome to the Natural Design Podcast, Episode 2. I'll be your host. My name is Jake, and I am extremely excited to start off this conversation about building, design, construction, furnishings, everything that we feel, touch, and see in the physical world, with an emphasis on your home. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about space, as in square footage. How much do you need and how much do you want? And how can that space add value to your life, to your family's lifestyle? I want to start off by talking about a design style of Lloyd Wright, who I'm sure y'all are familiar with, arguably one of the most influential architects in the United States ever. And I want to talk about his Usonian design. Okay, so the first ever Usonian was the Jacobs House in Madison, Wisconsin. This is in 1937. Wright finishes this house when he's about 70 years old. Okay, so he's been designing all these amazing structures in prairie house style and just doing some really cool stuff. Then this guy comes to him, and he's a poor reporter, and he says, "Hey, can you design a house for me that is cheap, that I can afford?" Because Lloyd Wright's living in 18,000 square feet. He's designing, pretty big, incredible homes for very wealthy clients. And Wright basically says, "Awesome. I've been waiting for this challenge. I want to, something about the Great Depression, I'm sure, had a big influence on him." And he's saying, "I want to design a house that's livable, that's small, that initially he wanted it to be possibly, a kit home that a homeowner could build themselves. He wanted to keep this whole thing at $5,000 at the time, like $100,000 today. And so ultimately, he's not really able to make this home for the masses, on budget and simple enough to be built by. They were proving difficult even for contractors. But what's awesome about it is he wants to challenge the catalog companies at the time, Sears and Montgomery Ward, putting out, these cookie cutter boxes. And he wants to create a style for and of America. So Usonian is an acronym for United States of North America. And he aspired to create this distinct style that was affordable for the common people of the United States. And he basically, he does certainly make a style, and it has a lasting impact on the mid-century modern movement. Here's a quote from Lloyd Wright. He says, "It is not only necessary to get rid of all unnecessary complications in construction. It is necessary to consolidate and simplify the heating, lighting, and sanitation systems." So these are designed to be simple grid layouts. They have no attics or basements. They have simple low-slope roofs. They had radiant heating in the floors, a lot of concrete floors. They incorporated natural materials, extremely efficient use of space. The kitchens were incorporated into the living areas. And They are great spaces, awesome spaces. They had carports. They didn't have garages. He's trying to do all these things to keep the costs down, but still have a home, still create a home. In order to create a home, what does Frank Lloyd Wright do? He thinks about every aspect of the occupants and how they live and how they move about and what their needs are and what their wants are. And it's this thought that leads to a connected feeling with a space, which is the difference between an Usonian and a Pulte home in a subdivision today. It's night and day. It really is. I've got another quote that I want to read by architect Peter Blake, speaking about Usonian architecture. Blake says, "If one thinks of space as a sort of invisible but ever-present vapor that fills the entire architectural volume, then Wright's notion of space in motion becomes more clearly understandable. The contained space is allowed to move about from room to room, from indoors to outdoors, rather than remain stagnant, boxed up in a series of interior cubicles. This movement of space is the true art of modern architecture, for the movement must be rigidly controlled so that the space cannot leak in all directions indiscriminately." He said this in 1960. I'm not hung up on, adhering to Usonian design. I'm not saying it's the style to build, but that we can apply these principles and live in a small, efficient, inspiring space today. It's totally doable. Actually, that's reminding me of another Frank Lloyd Wright quote. Style is important. A style is not. So we can borrow the Usonian concepts without doing the exact same thing. Space it's very critical to match the space with the occupant's needs, wants, and lifestyle. Too small of a space, a tiny home, doesn't work. Too big of a space, castles are lonely. You don't want something too small. You don't want something too big. You want something that fits. More is not more. The modern day building trends in the United States have placed square footage over quality. And that has really led to a lot of that sucks. Because for the same budget, if you have a family of 5 and you say, I'm not sure why, a 4,000 square foot house, and you've got a budget of $500,000. If you take that same $500,000 and build a 3,000 square foot space, you can put so much more attention into the details. That budget goes so much further. You can use better quality materials, more natural materials. You can have better appliances. You can have you'll end up with a much lower energy load, lower bills, easier to incorporate alternative sources of energy, and easier to move around in. There's lots of advantages to having a not too small but just right size space. And this is why I think that the Usonia automatic is so applicable today. And there's a lot to be learned from this experiment of Frank Lloyd Wright's towards the end of his life. And the fact that he wanted people to be able to build their own, I love that. And that's probably another reason I'm so excited about these, is because I'm such a hands-on guy that I love that. So basically, I just want to open up the conversation to talk about an alternative to the ever-increasing size drywall boxes that are being crammed ever increasingly close together. I want to talk about the possibility of doing in 2,000 square feet what often similar size families will do in 4,000 square feet. I want to talk about these concepts that Frank Lloyd Wright was exploring in the 30s for the Great Depression. I want to talk about these same concepts, not from a standpoint of affordability, but in today's times, from the standpoint of sustainability and possibly being off grid. Building homes that last a lifetime. A lot of this stuff is lost on today's market, and it's very unfortunate. And it would be awesome to see these trends change. I'm not an architect, I'm a builder, but I am always looking for something better. I'm always inherently curious about how things work, or how they could work better, and how can we do more with what we've got. And that's probably one of the reasons that I'm so drawn to Frank Lloyd Wright, is that he was a very hands-on guy. He was a builder in a lot of senses. He was designing every little detail and wanting them to be interacted with and lived in and enjoyed. And essentially, he had a understanding that the everyday little details of where are you drinking your coffee in the morning, where are you parking your car, what are you looking at, what are the sight lines. For Frank Lloyd Wright, it was just all about the occupant. And that is what I would love to have a conversation about, in the sense of what do we really, really, truly need and want in our homes, and how much space does it take? So I'm going to leave it there. I'd love to get some feedback, love to answer your questions, and I look forward to you being my very first podcast subscriber. And whoever you are, thank you for taking the time to listen to me struggle through this first episode. And give me an email, leave some comments, and let's do episode 3 together. See y'all.
Sarah Lee's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders.